following on from that, I would like to invite Dr. Martin Pan, Associate Director of Medical Research, Innovation and External Partnerships at Biogen, for his presentation on how we can use big data to define and validate real-world outcomes in Alzheimer's disease. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Foundation, Giovanni, and to AC Mune, especially Andrea Pfeiffer and Gautam Maitra, for the opportunity to come here and present this very exciting project that we are coming into place by the end of this year. I'm a physician working in Biogen in the European Regional Office based here in Switzerland. And I'm presenting on behalf not only of my company, also of the consortium of companies that have developed this initiative, and the coordinator, Professor John Gallagher from Oxford University. The project is called ROADMAP and stands for Real World Outcomes Across the Alzheimer's Disease Spectrum. And it mentions the methodology that the applicants, the academics, have proposed on how to address our proposal from the industry using a multimodal data access platform. So this sounds a little bit weird, but I believe I will be able to convey a clear message of what's about. If I give you a situational analysis of Alzheimer, we need to prepare for the new interventions coming. And when I say interventions, I mean therapeutics, nutrition, diagnostic tools, but I also mean digital systems, because they will play a very strong role, especially in the capture of outcomes of value from patients. And in order to prepare for these interventions to address the societal burden of the disease, industry is investing heavily, especially in this last decade, in many randomized clinical trials for different types of interventions. But over the last decade, we have learned that the disease, in fact, starts something like 10 to 20 years before we see the symptoms. The new trials, learning from the experience of the previous decade, are targeting the very early stages of the disease, what we call early AD, prodromal, pre-symptomatic, that Andrea was mentioning. But the healthcare system still is focusing on the very late stages of the disease. So when you have dementia, and allegedly there is little to do at that time because the disease has been there for long. So both the real-world data and the care system don't address the full spectrum of the disease. Currently, it's addressing more the very late stages when interventions cannot really do much. So it's difficult to characterize the natural history of disease across all the different stages. There is a passive attitude towards the care. Symptoms remain undetected to very late. Diagnosis is delayed, and the access is very, very fragmented. So there is not enough efforts on the collection and analysis of high-quality real-world evidence. We have very good real randomized clinical trials, but we didn't invest that heavily because we didn't believe we were going to be successful in real-world data. But lately also there's been a lot of advancement, and Google is one of the companies investing heavily on it, in technological solutions for electronic data collection and management. And this will offer an opportunity to develop real-world data to facilitate decisions to improve care. So many factors are preventing us from having a reliable prediction of the course of the disease in real world. And I try to list there most of them. There is a lack of consensus on the appropriate study designs and endpoints beyond what is randomized clinical trials. We have lack of measures that can be transferable across systems and data systems and studies. For example, medical versus social care systems. There's a lack of AD-related cognitive and functional measures in medical records that are relevant across the spectrum of the disease. And again, there is a lack of clarity on how best to model the natural history of disease using real-world data. As the disease stages are difficult to define, also the high-quality centers where they have imaging, CSF, etc., and research cohorts. But in the primary healthcare clinics, we really don't characterize that well. So in view of all these challenges, some members of the industry, we have gathered together and produced an idea that was very well received by the public community. And we create this project called Roadmap. It's under the IMI framework. IMI stands for Innovative Medicines Initiative. It's the second edition after 10 years of this framework operating in public-private partnerships. And it's a very ambitious project which is the first project in the Big Data for Better Health Outcomes program, sponsored by the FPA, by the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries. So we conceptualized this project in 2 phases. Now we are in phase 1. We are building up the full project proposal that will be very detailed to people month, hopefully by the second half of the year. And this phase 1 will last around 2 years. Hopefully, there will be a phase 2 that will be informed by the results of this phase 1. And what we aim to do is to deliver a series of data integration methods and tools for patient outcomes from the routinely collected data in the real world, which is scalable and transferable, and ultimately providing a foundation for a Europe-wide, but it could be also US and other regions, real-world evidence platform in AD. If we manage to do this, apart of setting standards, this will allow and contribute to personalized medicine, exploring more combinations, what is the safety profile of the new drugs, learning in real world with quality data. And understanding also how we can optimize benefiting special subpopulations of patients and at which stage they benefit from which drugs or which interventions. So it also aims to develop tools for stakeholder engagement. And I think this is quite revolutionary to achieve, to bring together not only industry, academia to work, is also bringing public entities like regulators, health technology assessment bodies, payers, national, regional health authorities. And the intention is to understand together the economic, legal, and social implications, and to create the conditions for an open collaboration amongst all the stakeholders, trying to build up consensus. So there will be recommendations and outputs done by this consortium, but hopefully beyond the consortium through a big expert advisory board, and there is good news that we probably will be able to bring up to 15 entities, public entities across Europe. We will try to produce white papers recommendations. So ultimately to benefit patients and the care. So here you have the logos of the consortium as it is at the moment. There are 9 companies. Biogen, Lilly, and Novartis are co-leading. AC Immune is a company that has believed on the concept from the beginning and is with us, is considered a biotech. But we have another big pharma like Roche, Janssen, Pfizer, Merck, and General Electric Healthcare. And I would remark that we have 4 companies based in Switzerland. Biogen is my company, is a Cambridge-based biotech or middle-sized pharma. But the compound we have more upfront in development is in partnership with Neuromune based in Zurich. So we have up to 4 companies with Swiss capital in this, which adds to the efforts in Switzerland to become a hub for Alzheimer's research. On the public side, we have, as a coordinator, Professor John Gallagher. He's professor in Oxford University. He's the chair of the Dementias Platform UK, and well connected to the UK environment. The experts in outcome measures will be from Edinburgh. And we have the best experts in modeling, natural history of disease and health economics, London School of Economics. We will bring also Karolinska, data management and integration. And we are capitalizing from efforts that have lasted more than 7 years. Through the IMI framework, where we can share information, many of these scientists and some others have gathered in a big IT platform up to 40 cohorts and electronic health records from different countries. And this, believe me, is really challenging. They did it for a study studying risk factors in AD, but bringing databases from different origins and being able to study multimodal data is extremely challenging, and they managed to achieve this. So it's something that we will capitalize. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. These guys have developed all the tools, and now we will repurpose it, and we will take those cohorts that really have quality data to the extent there is quality data in real world at the moment. Another innovation that we have in this type of consortium is that first time we will bring public stakeholders. So we have as full members NICE, the Health Technology Assessment Agency from the UK, and the Spanish regulator, but also the European Patient Association, Alzheimer's Europe. And through NICE, it will be much easier to bring together as experts in advisory boards up to 15 entities. We will integrate also some data as associated data providers from France or other geographies that we believe should be represented, and any expertise that we are missing, we can at any time integrate. So the strength of roadmap relies on bringing together all these different stakeholders and expertise, applying cutting-edge technology from the learnings of the past, and having a data corpus of unexpected depth and breadth. I will cut this slide for the sake of time. So you see geographies, type of data, and we have the tools to be able to explore. And that's my last slide. What we pretend to deliver after 2 years is to define a minimum set of measurable patient outcome measures, extending ongoing work that is happening in the Dementia Platform UK, also at different countries in Europe. So this will yield at the end the production of the best natural history model that will be a living model in Alzheimer. We aim to develop recommendations for real-world evidence on appropriate AD-related cognitive, functional, and behavioral endpoints using cohorts to identify intermediate markers that may be transferable to clinical practice. This is another issue we have, that in clinical trials we are using endpoints that are very labor-intensive and more for an investigational research setup that cannot be used in the clinical practice. Therefore, the quality of the outcome measures that today we collect are not ideal. So we need to develop and validate those technologies or measures that will capture the outcomes in the real world. We need to identify data sources and align the data strategy. We need to develop new methods for collecting real-world data to improve the healthcare value and engagement of all these different stakeholders, discuss the role of the digital systems on how to capture outcomes, and there is another project that will be linked to this about building a functional outcome endpoint in the very early stages and correlated to cognitive outcome, and that would be very, very relevant for reimbursement. And finally, provide recommendations on disease progression models. So if I could say a take-home message on what we will deliver is a natural history research model, different models of health economics. In Alzheimer, we have the interventions in the early stages, but the cost happens in different data systems down in the stream years after. So to show your value of your intervention, you really need to couple these things. And we will produce consensus and inform a prospective data collection that hopefully is done through a federated European or global environment. Thank you very much.
Dr. Pan, thank you.